Let's discuss today kingdom fungi. Kingdom fungi include heterotrophic group of organisms, that is, they are dependent on other organisms for their survival, and they are seen on moist bread and rotten fruits. Okay, the example is mushroom and toadstools. The white spots seen on the mustard leaves are actually due to a parasitic fungus. Now you should remember two B's and two P's in kingdom fungi. That is yeast. Yeast is a fungus which make two B's, that is bread and beer, and two P's, that is Puccinia and Penicillium. Puccinia causes a disease in plants known as wheat rust, and Penicillium is a source of antibiotic known as penicillin, which is used to treat bacterial infections. Kingdom fungi are cosmopolitan, that is, they occur everywhere in air, water, soil, and on plants and animals. Now, they grow in warm and humid places. That's why we keep our food in refrigerator to prevent from bacterial and fungal infection. Now, F for fungi, F for filamentous organism. Exception being the yeast, which is the unicellular organism. Their bodies consist of long, slender, thread-like structure called as hyphae, which is of two types, cenocytic and septate. Cenocytic means these are tubes filled with multinucleated cytoplasm, and in septate, as the name suggests, septate means they have septate. Now, network of hyphae is called as mycelium. Okay, you should remember that many hyphae forms mycelium. And the cell wall of the fungi consists of chitin and polysaccharide. Fungi are heterotrophic group of organisms. They can occur as saprophytes, that is, they absorb soluble organic matter from dead substrates. They can be parasitic, that is, they depend on living plants and animals. They can also occur as symbionts. In association with algae, they are called as lichens. In association with roots of higher plants, they are called as mycorrhiza. Let's discuss reproduction in kingdom fungi. Now, by vegetative means, the fungus can be divided by fragmentation, fission, or budding. Fragmentation means each fungus, the mycelium, is divided by fragments, and each fragment grows into a new mycelium. The second type is fission. Fission means one mycelium divides into two, and each part grows into new mycelium. Okay, like this in fission. And in budding, outgrowth forms on the parent cell, and the new outgrowth forms into another mycelium. So that is fragmentation, fission, and budding. These are the three forms of vegetative means. Then in asexual reproduction, there are three types of spores can be formed. That is conidia, sporangiospore, and zoospores. In sexual reproduction, the ABO is the mnemonic. That is ascospore, basidiospore, and oospore. ABO, like our blood group. Ascospore, basidiospore, and oospores are formed in sexual reproduction. Now, spores are produced in the fruiting bodies, a distinct structure called as fruiting bodies in which the spores are produced. Here are some images of fragmentation, fission, and budding. These are various types of spores. Sexual cycle in fungus is very important to remember. The haploid hyphae, that is means only NN. Haploid hyphae fuse together to form a diploid cell directly. But in Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes, there is an intermittent stage called as a dikaryon. Di means two, karyon means nucleus. So it have a two nucleus stage. Okay. So first there is a plasmogamy, that is fusion of the protoplasm or cytoplasm occurs. Then there is a karyogamy, that is these two nucleus fuse together and form a diploid nucleus and form a zygote. So first is plasmogamy, then karyogamy. Plasmogamy is fusion of cytoplasm or protoplasm, and karyogamy means there is a fusion of nucleus. Now these diploid zygote form fruiting bodies which undergo meiosis. Meiosis means reduction division. Again this 2N stage converts into N stage, that is the haploid spores occur, and these haploid spores are again germinated to form mycelium. So this was all about the sexual cycle of the fungus. Kingdom fungi can be divided on basis of morphology of the mycelium, mode of spore formation, and fruiting bodies. So, Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes, and Deuteromycetes. So first we will see Phycomycetes. So these are aseptate. All the fungi are septate. So you should remember Phycomycetes is aseptate, and all are septate. Deuteromycetes is called as imperfect fungi due to asexual reproduction only. It has only asexual form of reproduction. Other have asexual and sexual also. Now examples. You can remember the example of Phycomycetes by a mnemonic called as Amar, that is AMR, Albugo, Mucor, and Rhizopus. Ascomycetes, Morel, Truffle, Penicillium, Yeast, Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Neurospora. Then Basidiomycetes. The mnemonic is BAPU, BAPU, that is Basidiomycetes, Agaricus, E for Puccinia, and U is Eustylago. Agaricus is mushroom, Eustylago is mud, Puccinia is a rust fungus. Now Deuteromycetes, examples are Alternaria, Coletrichum, and Trichoderma. Let's discuss Phycomycetes. The mnemonic is AMR, Amar, that is Albugo, Mucor, and Rhizopus. Albugo is a parasitic fungus present on mustard. Rhizopus is a bread mold, which was previously discussed. Now, Phycomycetes are aquatic fungus. They are found on decaying wood in moist and damp places or as an obligate parasite on plants. Now, the mycelium is the differentiating feature. It is aseptate and sinusotic, means it is multinucleated cytoplasm is there and there are no septa. It is aseptate. Now, asexual reproduction is by zoospores and aplanospore. Zoospore, as the name suggests, zoo, that is animal which are motile. So, zoospore are motile and aplanospore is non-motile. Now, spores are endogenously produced in sporangium. Now, the gametes fuse and form zygospore, which are formed by fusion of the two gametes. The gametes can be isogamous or anisogamous or oogamous. So, iso means similar in morphology and aniso means they are dissimilar. Okay. So, in Phycomycetes, you should remember the example, Albugo, Mucor, and Rhizopus. The mycelium is aseptate. They are reproducing by zoospore and aplanospore. Zoospore are motile, aplanospore are non-motile, and the spores are endogenously produced in the sporangium. Second group of kingdom fungi are Ascomycetes, also called as sac fungi. Now, these are multicellular. Example is Penicillium. Rarely they can be unicellular. Example is yeast, also called as Saccharomyces. Now, they can be saprophytic, decomposers, or parasitic, or caprophilous, means they can also grow on dung. Now, the mycelium is branched and septate, that is, there are septa present in the mycelium. The asexual spores are called as conidia. They are produced exogenously on conidiophores. Conidiophore is a mycelium. And on germination, they produce the mycelium. Now, these sexual spores are called as ascospores. They are produced endogenously in the sac-like structure called as asci, and they are arranged in a fruiting body called as ascocarps. Okay. So, what should you remember in Ascomycetes? That is, they are multicellular, penicillium. If it is unicellular, yeast. Mycelium is branched and septate. Asexual spores are called as conidia, which are exogenously produced. And sexual spores are ascospores, which are endogenously produced in the sac. Okay. And the fruiting body of ascospores are called as ascocarps. The examples of Ascomycetes can be Aspergillus, Claviceps, and Neurospora. Now, this Neurospora is used extensively in biochemical and genetic work. And morels and truffles, these are the edible and are considered as delicacy. Let's discuss today Basidiomycetes. The mnemonic for example is BAPU. B for Basidiomycetes. A for Agaricus, that is the mushroom. P for Puccinia, which is the rust fungus. U for Eustylago, which is the smut. They grow in soil, tree stump, then on living plant body as parasites. Example is rust and smut. The mycelium of Basidiomycetes is branched and septate. They have a septa present. Then asexual spores are generally absent, but the vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. The fragmentation of mycelium occurs and each fragment grows into another new mycelium. Now, the sex organ are absent, but the two somatic or vegetative cells of different genotype and strain fuse together to form a dikaryon stage. Di means two, karyon means two nucleus. They have two nucleus. By plasmogamy, they form a dikaryon stage, which ultimately form Basidium. Now, this Basidium undergo karyogamy, that is the fusion of the nucleus, and meiosis, that is the reduction division, and it forms 4 basidiospores. Now, these 4 basidiospores, these are actually exogenously produced on the basidium, and these are arranged, these basidia, These are arranged in fruiting body known as basidiocarps. So you should remember basidium, basidiospores and basidiocarps. Let's discuss Deuteromycetes. Deuteromycetes are called as imperfect fungi. Why they are called as imperfect? Because they have only asexual or vegetative phases known. They do not have any sexual phase or reproduction. They reproduce only by asexual spores called as conidia. The mycelium is septate and branched. They have septa in between them. Then they are saprophyte or parasite, but the majority of them are decomposers of litter and they help in mineral cycling. The examples are Alternaria, Coletrichum and Trichoderma. You can easily remember by trichum and trichoderma. Okay. So Deuteromycetes are imperfect fungi. They reproduce asexually with the help of conidia. They have mycelium which is septate and branched, and you should remember the three examples: Alternaria, Coletrichum and Trichoderma. Thank you.